Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. My name is Jenna Voir, and I will be your host as we explore the dynamic world of Don Keenan's trial philosophy, the cutting edge. Those of you joining us live this afternoon have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with our speaker. If you have a question, please type it into the comments section below, and we will be sure to address it. Episodes are released each week following the live broadcast, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the alerts icon so you don't miss an episode. Today, we have Peter Levine with us to discuss how the EDGE system helped transform his jury selection. Peter has been with us before on the podcast, and I'm so happy to have him back. He's always a great time. He's an instructor at KTI, heavily involved with all things Don Keenan, and I am so happy to know him and again to have him back on today. I know this is one episode that so many of us who follow the EDGE system can identify with. We know what it was like to do voir dire jury selection before encountering the EDGE, and we know how wonderful it feels now to have a system and a level of confidence that is so much better than what it was before, all thanks to this wonderful system that Don Keenan has put together for us. Now, if you are new or newer to EDGE, if you put this system to work, your jury selection itself, as well as your attitudes towards jury selection, will be improved 1,000%. It will be a night and day difference. As always, I'll put Peter's contact information in the description below so that you can reach out to him directly with any questions after this episode. But Peter, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome back. Why don't you give us a quick reminder of who you are and then take it away and we'll get going. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, there you go. I was off code. What can I say? Jenna, thanks for having me here. It's an honor.
You're welcome.
It's an honor to be here. I love it. And, you and I go back a long way. I remember it was in Las Vegas at actually a Voir dire seminar where I first met you. So I have a great fondness, affinity, and connection. And I'm very proud of knowing you, and you're very successful. So thank you. I love being here because I used to be terrified of picking a jury in jury trials, okay? And it was something that I just had no idea what I was doing. But through the EDGE system and following Papa Don's teachings, I have grown to love it. Actually, if someone said to me tomorrow, can you pick a jury for us next week on a case? Obviously, I don't have all the preparation, but it's not something that terrifies me anymore because I have just come to accept it. Now, you may ask me, Peter, how did this happen? Where did it happen? Did you just wake up one night? And I'll answer. That's a great question, Jenna. Let me say this.
What's not the best question?
I remember years ago saying to myself, when will I ever get to the point where I can enjoy the trial and not be terrified and having all that chatter in my mind all the time? You know how we have that chatter going on all the time when you're getting up there and the judge says it's your turn and you stand up and everybody's looking at you and you feel so self-conscious. So all of a sudden it just happened that I found my rhythm, and I think it really had to do with several factors. First of all, for every lawyer it's different. I don't want to get too heavy here, but it has to deal, how did I deal with my own anxieties? And how did I deal with my own concerns? First of all, let me just share this with you. I'm a real preparing type of person. I prepare. I even have my notes here of what I want to talk about, I guess, which is part of what I do want to talk about, which is you can't do this without preparation, okay? This is all about preparation, preparation, and preparation. Victory loves preparation. And I guess it goes back to me thinking to myself, um, why am I afraid in trial? What is it about picking a jury that is so terrifying for me? Why? So I thought about this, and how did I get to be more relaxed and more confident? Because when you do your own self-analysis, which is very difficult to do, um, and we all have our own issues, I would say a lot of people have not been as fortunate as I have been to have um, a castrating mother or father who made me feel inadequate, right? So, I mean, I say that sarcastically, but let's talk about turning lemons into lemonade, right? You grow up in a household where you're always made to feel humiliated and down on yourself, wasn't? And then you choose a profession like being a lawyer, and yet you have the judge, the jury, witness, everybody looking at you, and you don't want to feel humiliated. So I became to realize maybe this is the problem I'm carrying with me into the courtroom. My own lack of confidence comes from this authority figure sitting up there. You know how it is when you walk into court and you stand up and it's like everybody's looking at you. Am I going to make a fool out of myself? Right. So this was the baggage I was carrying into trial with me. Okay. The lack of self-confidence. And that was the heart of the heart of my anxieties, the lack of self-confidence. So how did I get better? How did I get more comfortable with myself? The freedom. Well, I'm not going to be shy about mentioning that in today's society, I think a lot of people do resort to help, professional help, therapy, collaboration. But I've been very fortunate. First of all, Papa Don is a great teacher. You have the blog, you have the Edge, you have the seminars, you have the courses. So hard work and preparation. I hope I don't sound like I'm rambling. I'm just telling you, what I go through is every fear I have, I turn into my strength. Okay, because the fear is what drives me to work hard. To say I put in 2 hours just to prepare for this talk is an understatement. I don't want to look foolish. I'm being honest. No one wants to look foolish, okay, especially in front of this group of top shelf lawyers. So several years ago, I formed a study group with two of my friends. I can mention their names, Richard Kennedy and David Crump, two great lawyers. And, we meet at least once a month. I'd say we talk at least 10 times a week. We talk about, Richard has his issues going with his cases. We talk about it. I have my issues. We talk about how we do our focus groups. So we collaborate, and I'll talk about, like in my last trial, I had long conversations with my friends about, should I start off with the passion question? And I want to talk about that passion question. See, that's such a phenomenal question. Okay. I know, but so we talk, we collaborate, and that's part of the system. When I used to go to the seminars many years ago, Papa Don would have us stand up and introduce ourselves to two people we never met before, which was phenomenal because a lot of my best friends now are in the Edge, that's where my friendships come from. So I not only thank Papa Don for making me or helping me on my journey to being a great lawyer, which I'm not yet, but he's also improved my life because I find through the Edge, I've overcome my fear of preparation. I used to be a procrastinator, which in this business is the kiss of death. We know that, don't we?
Absolutely.
And of course, when you do your focus groups and you get the hot buttons and you talk about it and collaborate and work it through. So the question becomes, okay, how did I get better? And why am I enjoying my trials so much more? Because like in my last trial, the judge he told us we're going to get 25 minutes and we got to do the whole panel of 60. Okay, so, I immediately pull out my article on the 17-minute Voir dire by Papadon, and I'm thinking it through, and you start off with the passion question, and I've been thinking about this. Of course, we bond through the passion question, we go off code through the passion question, but we learned so much through the passion question, through the crosstalk, through the ability to stand up there and just listen. Okay. Now, I practice the passion question in every focus group I do because it's not easy. Okay. I'm not going to pretend. It is a very hard question to work with for me because it can lead to so many wonderful things. So, for example, when you only have 20 or 25 minutes and you stand up there, as this authority figure in the courtroom, as Papadon says, and you immediately say to them, ladies and gentlemen, I only have 20 to 25 minutes to speak to you. So my first question is my most important question, and it's about you. Wow, how about that? All of a sudden, here I am. I got 20 to 25 minutes to talk to them, and I want to talk about them. What does that do for the group? I mean, immediately you're saying to them, they're more important than me, and I'm going off code, right? And you know how we used to worry about no one's going to answer the passion question. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Well, I've been there, and it happens. Okay. So you say to them, come on, someone's got to have a passion they want to talk about, right? Who's got a passion? See, I realized if I'm just myself and not trying to be anyone else, and not trying to be, this smart guy, but just honest with them, they respond more to me. So I gave myself that permission to talk to them, okay? Now, where is this leading? Because I didn't realize how the passion question can take you into so many other areas of the pie. You know how when we do our pie, and I don't want to get into secret sauce stuff, but we think about the pie in terms of doing each piece in order. But through the passion question, you can take it anywhere you really want to go, especially if you have limited time. For example, in my last trial, because we're out here in LA, we have a lot of screenwriters and people involved in the Hollywood business, right? So this one woman, you could tell she was very hostile. Very hostile. And I asked her what her passion was, and she said, my passion is making money, and I'm not making any money while I'm here in trial. And we have a felon in the White House. So that's my passion, Mr. Levine. Now, what the hell do I do with that, right? But immediately, I said to her, well, I'm not going to touch the political politics, okay? My great teacher told me, keep that out of the trial. Everybody laughs. So I dealt with it, but without dealing with it, right? I didn't feel, oh my God, what do I do? And then I said to her, and I understand your desire to make money, but you also have to understand how important you are to this whole process. And that you're doing the most important thing any of us could ever ask. You're being honest with us, and we have to celebrate that. So we appreciate you telling us how you feel. Thank you so much. But I do want you to know that without you, we don't have a system of justice. So I learned through my experience with Papa Don and Mindy and all Greg Luther and all the other great teachers that we can use every answer they give us as an opportunity to bond, to elevate them, to tell them how important they are. And then I even go into, and do you realize not only are you important, but how great the system of justice is? That this is a jury, ladies and gentlemen, we're the only country in the world that entitles us to do this. And then why not? I said, you are the conscience of the community before the other side could even object, right? What are they going to say? Objection? You can't talk about the conscience of the community when I'm already bonding with the jury, right? So, I just took that as like, let me fly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just went with it, right? You're the conscience of the community. And then I said, and if you want, I can ask the judge if he'll excuse you. Would you want me to do that? And she goes, yeah. So at that moment, it came to me that, all the years Papa Don has been talking about the passion question and how critical it is. And at that moment, it came to me that you can do so much with that question. Because I know a lot of lawyers, it's a tough question to ask when you have 25 minutes, isn't it? So how do you handle that part? Okay, well, here's how I handled it. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to have time to ask everybody about their passion. I have to apologize because His Honor is putting me under a time constraint. And it's no disrespect to any of you. I promise you. I wish I could do it all day, but I don't have the time. Is that okay with everybody? And they're nodding the head, okay. What else can I do, right? I know there's other methods to do it, but that was the method I chose. So now what am I doing with the other, 40 people who are sitting in the audience who I have to voir dire as well? Well, I've made that mistake in the past. Let me tell you, we all learn from our mistakes. So I had this situation once before, and I blew it because what happened was we had the 14 in the box, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to do the audience too. And I spent so much time doing the audience, I forgot to do some of the people in the box. So you have to be careful to make sure you don't forget those people in the box, even though you got to do everybody. So I turn to everybody and I say, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be able to speak to a lot of you, but please understand, and I don't mean to have my back to you, but I'm under a lot of time constraint. So there's nothing wrong with telling the jury you have that time constraint going for you. That's my opinion. That's how I deal with it because I'm being straight with them. I'm being honest with them so they understand why I'm rushing. In fact, Now, another great thing that was amazing that happened with the passion question, and I remember this so well, there was this gentleman in the upper right-hand corner, I think, sitting as juror number 1 or whatever. He wouldn't talk for anybody. Okay. So when I went to him and I asked him, what is your passion, sir? He said he loves amusement parks. Now, I happen to love amusement parks. Remember, we have Disneyland out here and all that stuff, right? And earlier, one of the women in the audience who would never make it up to the jury said her passion is roller coasters. Okay? So I saw this as an amazing opportunity. I said, really? I said, are you friends with juror number so-and-so over there who loves amusement parks? Do you guys go there together or what? And that immediately woke him up, made him feel good. And I said, well, what is it about? I said, first of all, what is your favorite amusement park? He said, oh, I love Disney World. Okay, I said, cool, pretty cool. I said, what's the ride that you enjoy? And he starts talking about himself. Okay, and he turned out to be a super guy. Or, if someone that, like in the trial I did before that, when I really got into jury selection, because in that situation, the judge gave us 4 days to do jury selection. It was a 6-week trial. And I remember in that case, I did what Papa Don taught us, and I remembered very well that I wanted to become the authority in the courtroom, the person the judge could trust. Okay? Because this judge said she'd never tried a med mal case before. So I wanted her to be able to look to me for honest answers, you know. And so I didn't want to surprise her or play any games with her because I knew I would lose credibility. So before jury selection, I wanted to know from her what her position is about asking for specific dollar amounts. For example, you know, the case involves more than $10 million, Your Honor. I want to make sure that they are in a position to be able to grant that much money. And that way, you know, or I told the judge, actually, I want to talk about safety rules, Your Honor, because I know the opposition is against it. And I found that that's very important to build that credibility with the judges, as everyone says, and not ambush the judge. So I felt that once I was able to be honest and just be upfront, everything goes so much better during jury selection. It's just like a magic. And in fact, what I said to the guy with the amusement park, I wanted to make this point was, I said, you know, it's so interesting you say this, because I said to him a couple of trials ago, my first question to everybody was, who's your favorite Disney character? And that didn't go over well, first of all. I want you to know that. So I for me, it didn't work. So I went back to passion. But it was amazing. You know, if he was on my jury and I asked about Disney characters, that would have been pretty cool. So, but that's how, you know, my journey into loving jury selection, I just find it to be a cool process. So I'm not afraid of it anymore. I hope that gives a little explanation, Jenna.
Absolutely. And, you know, what I'm hearing from you, we talk a lot in the Edge about authenticity, because number one is to help you be your best self, because you can't, what do they say? You can't be yourself because everybody else is already taken or whatever, you know, like silly, but true, right? Be authentic, because you're going to be the best at that. But also the trier of fact, whether it's a bench trial or a jury trial, is going to believe you and trust you if you're authentic. And so I've fallen into this, and Peter, I want to hear from you if you've fallen into this as well, where we try to emulate an older lawyer or maybe somebody we perceive to be more successful. And have you done that, Peter, and how has that worked for you?
Well, yes, I've done that, and it still goes through my mind, and it does not work out well. Okay, it just doesn't work out well, because you're not, you know, it's like telling your client, okay, when you prepare your clients, you tell them be honest, right? And if honesty means you're going to cry, you be honest, because if you're holding back who you are, the jury's going to think you're lying, okay? So how does that work out for me? Let me say this. In my last case, I'm embarrassed to tell you that I think I wore the same suit 3 or 4 times. And in fact, there was one period where I think I wore it 3 days in a row or 2 days in a row, okay? I didn't care anymore. You know, I would change my tie, change the color of my shirt, okay. But I stopped being somebody that I thought they wanted me to be. I wanted to be who I am. Now, I'm not saying, you know, just don't take care of it. What I'm saying is you got to be authentic. You know, you got to actually, here's what happened. How about this? During closing argument, okay, when I put the verdict form up and it said, you know, do you find the defendant liable? And I said, now on that one, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to check the box no. And you see your reaction? Everybody said to me, no, what do you mean no? I said, yes, I'm sorry. I made a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. It should be yes. I'm so sorry. Jesus, if I lose you, my client's going to sue me. I even said that, okay? because it was authentic. All right. And I said, gosh, ladies and gentlemen, please, if I haven't said it enough, it's yes. Okay. So how many people would turn that into a fun moment as opposed to being embarrassed? You see what I'm saying? Just flow with it. Don't be afraid to admit your mistakes. I've done a trial where I put north at the bottom and south at the top of a map throughout the entire trial. And at the conclusion of the trial, after we spoke to the jury, they said, Mr. Levine, we just want you to know north goes at top of the map. Okay. I mean, they like these mistakes. That's exactly right. That's how I thought I did it. I turned it around because I thought they were going this way, and I just wasn't smart enough to realize you put north at the top all the time. But you know, you don't lose trials because of that. Everybody is entitled to look foolish. It's okay. It makes you look real. Just be honest about who you are. So, and I remember in that one, the judge only gave us, and I wanted to talk about humor in the courtroom, because I know we're not supposed to have humor in the courtroom, but I like humor with my judges in a way. For example, and he said to me, Mr. Levine, I'm going to cut you down to 20 minutes on your closing. And I said to him, well, Judge, that's not fair. That's really prejudicial. Well, I'm going to do it. I said, come on, Judge, that's just not right. It's not going to look good to the Court of Appeal. Okay? Now, at that moment, I heard Greg Luther in my mind, because he taught us, you know, how to get into the judge's reptile, how to think about what the judge's, his mindset, his POV, right? So at that point, he said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And then he walked off and he said, here's what he said. You can thank Mr. So-and-so for that because he took too much time. That was another attorney in the case. So what did I do? I turned to him and I said, thank you. And the judge laughed. The judge came back out and he apologized. He said, Mr. Levine, it's a Friday afternoon. I'm having a bad afternoon. I apologize. And you know what I said? I said, Judge, you're the boss. If you give me 20 minutes, I'll do it in 20 minutes. You're entitled. We're all human. Okay? Now, where does that come from? That, because I surprised myself being able to talk to the judge like that. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe I like myself more. Maybe I'm more confident. Maybe I've overcome my personal issues. I mean, imagine, you know, this is a very tough profession, Jenna, right? I mean, here we are, you know, we're going into that courtroom, and let's be realistic. For women, for men, young lawyers have a tough time because, you know, they're young lawyers and there's that parent figure sitting up there on the bench telling you what to do. You're looking for that person's approval. They're not approving you. You feel rejected. There's the jury. They may be laughing at you. It's very difficult. So you have to overcome this by preparation. Preparation. Isn't it nice being able to voir dire the jury, knowing what your closing is going to be and sort of laying the seeds, right? And then finding out about them and their passions. Like in a case I had, I found out one guy is some sort of worked for NASA as an engineer. Okay. Well, it just so happened that my economic expert used to teach engineers for NASA. Okay. So you can be sure I told him that, so that when he gave his biography to the jury, he made sure he looked at that juror. So the passion question gets you so much in terms of helping you with your closing. When you learn about the jurors, you can like one juror said to me, her passion is animals and her dog. Well, that's my passion. I bring my dog to work every day. He's probably sitting outside my door so he wouldn't bark. But I said, well, your dog. I said, that's phenomenal. What is it about your dog that you love so much? Right? And she goes, I just love them being unconditional. I said, isn't that the truth? People should be that way. Isn't that true? But they're not. Yeah. I said, then what did it tell us about you? But I mean, you can even see that connection you're making with these people. And as Papa Don says, it's about trust and about being off code. And if the jury trusts you, they will come with you and they will walk with you and they will cross the river with you and they will give you the damages. Okay, it's all about that trust and being off code. And I also enjoy I got so lucky, I couldn't believe it when I used the tough guy question. Now, a lot of people don't like the tough guy, lawyer bonding, going off code.
The tough guy
but
you never know what to do.
Really, you know what? That's because a lot of people don't answer it. It's like you gotta come on, tell me why you hate me, please. Tell me. And then I got lucky. The first person said, you're liars. I said, bingo, thank you. It's like, wow. I said, does anyone else feel that way? And, I embraced it. I was so happy to hear it that it must have made me look really even more off code. It's like, well, I would ask you, why do you not know what to do with that question? I mean, it is a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough question. Yeah. But it takes practice.
Don has a great one because he, was a Marine and he's like, oh, I have thick skin.
Oh.
I developed my thick skin from being a lawyer. So what do? Get up there and be like, oh, being a lawyer, so that's why I feel like I have a hard time figuring out how to frame the question. And it's just, Peter, you sound like you have some judges who do short voir dire. Up in here in Washington, we have like very short voir dire. So it ends up being, but yeah.
Well, even though, I'll say this judge said to me in the middle of the passion question, Mr. Levine, you have a limited amount of time. Why don't you ask some relevant questions? And I'm thinking to myself, WTF, man, what are you doing here, Judge? I mean, seriously? I mean, you don't get it? Okay. And I'm thinking, this guy's been a judge for so long and he still doesn't get it. I said, okay, Your Honor, can you just give me one more minute to talk about the jurors, about themselves? I wanted to make him look a little like, And then, what went through my mind when he said that? See, this is how I overcome it. It's because I heard my invisible partner on my shoulder, Papa Don. Okay. And I heard his voice saying, the jury will side with you. The jury will feel sorry for you because the judge is picking on you, especially when I'm talking to the jury about them, right? Imagine some person on the jury wants to be the next person to talk about their passion. And here we have the judge saying, these questions are irrelevant. Come on. He's handing me a gift, isn't he? So, I mean, I would say to lawyers, if a judge does that to you, send him a thank you note, because the judge is really helping you bond with the jury in many ways, not to be afraid of those criticisms. He's the jerk, or she, depending upon. But yeah, I know that's a hard part, is to, where do I, I'm a tough guy, we all have to find that. Well, I'm lucky. I grew up in a tough household. So being the middle child, I was able to take it from them and them below me, and I had to get a tough skin. But I'm sure, Jenna, you'll have that spot to find it. Okay, we all have our humiliations that makes us tougher, I suppose. But So I wanted to talk about how I've taken many, many, many courses, many of them repeat, and I'm not afraid to reach out and ask my friends for help on how to do a better job picking a jury. And of course, you got to know your hot buttons that you're looking for, right? Where's all this going? You just, you have to ask the right which way you leans and try to. But to me, it's about connecting with that jury, and because the courtroom's all about emotion, isn't it? You can write the best briefs in the world, but you got to put that emotion. And I'm sure we've all had cases where you turn to your co-counsel and you say, "There's no emotion in this case. I know where this thing is going," and you try to put the emotion in, and it just some judges will suck that emotion right out. They do everything possible to prevent you from having that emotion in the courtroom, right? And those are not good feelings. You get a feeling where this one's going, and I always like to do a case with someone at my side helping me. I can't do it by myself. I have to be able to have co-counsel that I lean on. And I'm not afraid to tell the jury that during the course of the case, I'm going to be speaking with my co-counsel, asking them questions, even in the middle of my examination. And that's cool. So I find jury selection to be really, really fun. And I never thought I would be able to say that. And
you do.
I find it enjoyable. Now, yeah, we do. And
focus group. So one of the things that I know has helped me develop my comfort in the voir dire jury selection scenario is practicing it over and over again in front of jury, in front of focus groups. And that not only helps me practice the question to make sure I'm asking it clearly, but it also helps me understand my goals, because Papa Don always tells us, have your goals of voir dire. So Peter, tell us how you use focus groups to help with your comfort and developing your voir dire.
Well, in every focus group I do, I will do a passion question and learn how to get them cross-talking and beginning to understand the nature of my case. What I like to do is learn in advance, typically speaking, what I'm looking for through my passion question. And I hope this makes sense, if you have a med mal case and you try to figure out, or what are the issues in your case, what kind of person on my jury, what would I say to a guy on my jury or a woman on my jury, say, who works, in a menial job, or say works in a construction, or works in a hospital? How can I use them to advance the ball in my case? That's what I look for. If I want to develop my system failure, I have to pay attention to what they do at work to find out, do they have a system at work, or do they have checklists at work, or how do they have safety rules at work? So I try to learn from my focus group what type of jobs, what type of occupations I'm looking for that I can use to educate the jury when I do voir dire. Does that make sense? That's how I use my focus groups. So, if I had like I got a case coming up involving a sidewalk that caught the bottom of my client's foot. In other words, it was an uneven sidewalk. So, I may want to talk to jurors, and when they talk about their passion, it may be running, or, Does anyone have a passion involving walking or exercise? And, that could lead to, do you use the sidewalks? Do you find, you know what I'm saying? You can always work your case by listening to what they do, what their hobbies are, what their passions are, and you can connect it to an issue in your case without them even knowing you're doing that. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I do find
So
also
if I had a case
through a focus group, you learn how to talk to people, right? I mean, you exactly like you gave that great example of that woman who had a terrible attitude and you just didn't miss a beat. You knew exactly what to do with her because you, not even if you practiced something exactly like that in a focus group, but you just generally practiced talking to difficult people or, people who just have a different opinion than you in your focus groups, right?
Right. Well, many years ago, and this always stands out to me, I was doing a trial, and I believe I was very new at the edge. And I remember this just like yesterday. It was a med mal, and she says to me that her husband is a doctor, and she doesn't like me for what I'm doing, suing a doctor. Now, at that point, the judge broke for lunch. Okay. And I panicked. I said, what the hell am I going to do with this now? Right? What do I do with this? So I saw an attorney in the lunch in the cafeteria, great attorney. And I said to him, what do I do? He says, thank the juror. You're doing exactly what the judge said you should do. Tell the truth. And wow. I said, that's cool, And so now when Papa Don teaches us that every answer is a gift, I'm not afraid when they challenge me or they tell me they don't like me or they tell me they don't like my case, because isn't that what you really want to hear? Tell me more of this. I love it. Thank you, ma'am. You're doing exactly what the judge said you should do. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone else has those feelings, please share them. We need to know them now, because this may not be the right case for you. There may be a more interesting case down the hallway that you may want to sit on. So tell me all your negative feelings. I would love to hear them, ladies and gentlemen, because it's very important to my client, because we all believe we want to get a fair trial. See? So, just embrace it. Don't run from it. They're giving you a gift. So, but no one can prepare you when a juror says, you're trying to manipulate us, Mr. Levine. Wow, what do you do with that one? You know what you're saying inside. Oh, this guy's got it. He's pretty good. He understands what's going on here. Wait a second. I said, well, what do you think I said that's making you think I'm trying to manipulate you? Because if that's what I'm doing, then I'm not really being a good lawyer, So and so. I said, well, no, I can understand why you think that. But let me tell you why I asked you that question, because I want you to understand. See? So I had a conversation with the person instead of feeling, whoa, I didn't want to get defensive. But, I think that takes a lot of honesty in yourself, and just flow with it, and not be afraid of when a juror challenges you, because you want them to do that, don't you? You want them to challenge you. And you know what else? I actually now don't mind. I don't know. I just find it to be a lot of fun picking juries, and then wrapping it all up, is because it's a symphony, isn't it? This whole thing of the edge is about, from the time you do case intake, if you select your case right, you got your rules, you got everything going, and I love, humor in the courtroom. Okay. Now, I will never try to be humorous in front of the jury during voir dire. You just, if my jokes fall flat, you know it's not going well, right? So I stay away from humor. But the focus groups are critical because they prepare you. I mean, after all, if you do your voir dire in your focus groups, you will basically fall flat in the beginning. I mean, you don't know what to say, right? What do you say when someone says, okay, thank you? And also, you have to know how to control the jurors. Because what do you do when you have the runaway juror who talks and talks, just like I'm talking now, right? How do you deal with that? And you say, you know, I had that in my last trial. What am I doing with this? I had to be able to say, sir, I know this is rude and I'm not trying to be rude, but I have to cut you off. And I'm so sorry, but I'm under tremendous time constraint. I hope you understand that. And he did. Okay. So I learned a very important there. You got to cut him off without letting him or her take up all your time. Otherwise, you're not going to get through your voir dire, especially if you have a limited amount of time, right? So, and then, you know, I guess we all have our 800-pound gorilla for ourselves, right? So you got to learn how to, what is my Achilles heel? What is it that I'm afraid of? And look, it's a work in progress. Aren't we all works in progress? You know, it's like we want approval from our peers. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to look bad. Just get rid of all that baggage and just go in and do your best job being prepared. So that's what I wanted to share with you, my excitement at the system, knowing that look, you know, at my age, I still love doing this. It's a passion. I love the edge and everything we learned. So I'm happy you had me on the show to share some of these thoughts.
Well, just as you're wrapping up,
what else can I do?
And mine, David Crump, sent us a little message, and he says, remember Dale Carnegie, a person's great need is to feel important. You do that in your selection questions with the passion, etc., and how you respond, right? Empowering that jury, such a big part of what we do.
Oh, my Lord, isn't it? You know, every chance I get, if I can be in front of them, you know, even when I, you know, you learn from Papa Don, you know, I beg my daughter to read that book, but because I'm begging her to read it, she won't read it, of course, right? But it is, thank you, David Crump, about making that jury feel important. I mean, they're coming into this courtroom scared, and when you tell them this is their courtroom, this is their temple, this was built for them, and that generations from now, their grandchildren will come by this courtroom knowing that's where grandma or grandpa sat on a jury. They're not going to remember the specifics, but they're going to remember the emotional imprint of being on this case, you know. So, but you know, the one thing I still can't predict, and it's so hard to do, is who's going to be my foreperson. I was so wrong in my last trial, you know, I'm embarrassed to say. And throughout the last trial, I kept thinking that person's going to be the foreperson. I know it. I know it. I know it. I spoke to her during, you know, my examinations. I would look at her, all this, and nope, it was someone I had no idea. I don't even know why this person was the foreperson. So I'm not good yet at figuring out who's going to be the foreperson. I wish I was, but I still need more work on that.
Peter, was the person who answered first in your passion question? Did you have any?
That is so interesting. No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. In fact, the person who answered first, I think they got off the jury. Isn't that interesting? Because I know what you're saying. I wait for the first person, right, to see if that's the person who has the courage, who's going to be a leader. But it didn't happen that way. So, you know, and then, of course, as Papa Don says, alone time is very important, isn't it? Being alone, thinking about your case, worrying about the case. Um, you know, that's why I love trials, because it takes you out of the office. You don't have to deal with the day-to-day work of the office, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I have a message from Matthew. It looks like our MedMal RA contingent is here in force supporting you, Peter, because Matthew says, I think Rick Friedman, in becoming a trial lawyer, wrote about don't be afraid to be foolish. And I am glad to hear your stories of how you embraced and elevated your practice. Very helpful to new attorneys, to plaintiff trial work and the edge. And Rick is a dear colleague of mine right over here in Western Washington. So very familiar with him and his practice. And I know he reveres Don Keenan highly as well. And so good point, Matthew.
well, I've I think I've done everything to be foolish in the courtroom. I've been there, done it, and don't be afraid of it. I mean, that makes you human. You're allowed to make mistakes. Actually, how about this one? I in a couple of cases ago, my expert said something that was very foolish and hurt the case, and we forgot to object and address it. So the next day I said to the judge, Your Honor, I'd like to call my expert back because I forgot to ask a question that I think is very important. He says, why should I allow that? I said, because I screwed up. I made a mistake. And I think we can't get a fair trial if the jury is left with the wrong impression. And I really would like the court to give me that opportunity, Your Honor, because I think it'll fix the record and avoid an appeal. And I take full responsibility for this. She let me bring him back. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
So sometimes, yeah, well, no, I guess it was, but if you build the sense, some judges would say no, of course not. But some judges might say yes. But you got to ask. You got to take charge. You got to be the honest authority figure in the courtroom without being overbearing, just being yourself and not being afraid of this authority figure on the bench or what the other lawyer thinks. I don't care anymore what the other lawyer thinks. They're not my friend. They're not there to help me. They're there to hurt my case. So, but again, it's like running a marathon. You think you're going to run out of steam and you finally find that energy and you get past it. And then the next time you run the marathon, when you think you're going to run out of steam, you remember the last one and you said, I was able to do it. Well, make every mistake you can. It's okay, because you're going to learn that those mistakes are not going to be the reason why you win or lose a trial. They're just little mistakes. And the next time you make them, you're going to realize it didn't destroy me last time. It made me stronger, made me more honest in front of the judge, took me off code, and the jury loves you for that. So that would be my advice to a young lawyer. Just be yourself, but be prepared. And you know what? The young lawyers can be more dangerous than the older lawyers because they will study your inexperience is what gets you through and makes you a better lawyer. So it's a learning game. We never stopped learning. I want to go back and take more Voir dire courses now because now I understand it better and I think I can learn it better. It's like I love learning this stuff and I love the college.
Yeah, and I think to your point.
So that's been my journey.
Yeah, so to your point of learning from your mistakes, we learn from our successes, of course, kind of maybe some things that we want to do again, but without that pain and the scarring that comes with making mistakes, we don't learn the perfect, we don't improve or perfect our craft. And I mean, I don't know how many of you out there did this. I went out on my own, totally by myself, right out of law school. And literally everything I know today I think everything probably without, except for what Dawn has taught me, I learned because I screwed up and I did it wrong in the first place. And it was painful. And I mean, I made mistakes that I have never forgiven myself for. And I still think about them to this day, but they stick with me and they make me better for my clients and they make me better at my craft. So you don't want to go into things trying to make mistakes or anything like that, but just know that Papa Don always says, you know, being held in contempt never killed anybody. And if they did, then, you know, at least you'd be known for something. And oh, by the way, I was never held in contempt. So I'll add that, but I've made a lot of mistakes.
You're so right. You know, what's the worst the judge is going to do? Yell at you? How many times have you seen a judge yell at opposing counsel and still thinks it's okay? As Papa Don says, if you're not getting yelled at, you're doing something wrong, right? It comes with the territory. You got to be able to take the yelling. And you're not going to win every case, but you're going to do the best you can. That's the goal. Do the best you can. And when you do your voir dire, just remember the goal is to bond with that jury, get them to crosstalk, find out about them, be likable, be honest, be who you are. Don't be afraid if you don't know what to say. It's okay to say, you know what, I got to tell you, I don't know what to say when you make that comment. Would anybody on the jury like to address that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, be in the moment. In fact, there's a good book out there called Chatter, How to Get Rid of That Internal Chatter in Your Mind. You know, you're thinking, as you're asking questions, right? How many of us, when we ask that question, are thinking about the next question versus listening for the answer? But if you get in the zone and listen to the answer, you will know what to ask next. You will appear honest and interested. And that is more important than being smart. It's that emotional connection with the jurors that's going to win the case, in my opinion, because the case is all about the emotion. So when the defense lawyer gets up there and does the typical BS voir dire, you've already beat him because you've connected with that jury already. So that would be my my point that I wanted to mention. That's all. Don't guess, test. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
Right?
That's it. Awesome.
And,
is there anything else you want to wrap up with before we get going?
Sure. Being afraid is reptilian. Embrace it. It makes you a better lawyer.
Awesome.
That's my advice.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
I'm always afraid.
For joining me again. I have had a wonderful time with you today, as I always do. And thank you to all of you who joined us for this week's episode of Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. If you liked today's episode, please click that thumbs up to feed the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe and sign up for alerts so you don't miss an episode. Our next, for sure, live episode is going to be with Carrie Jones on April 4th. We'll be talking about how we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a female trial lawyer. And I have, there's a couple of things, even Peter mentioned today, wearing his suit a couple times in a row. And I promise you, a jury will make a comment on that if you're a female. No offense, Peter. We are held to a little bit of a different standard by our jurors. So I'm excited to have Carrie on in April. We are working to get Tony Seaton and Matt Powell on next week. They are planned for next week, although there's been a little bit of scheduling. They want to talk to us about the Edge AI. And I'm blanking on what that even stands for, but you know, like the stuff, like the Chat GPT and the augmented reality or whatever. Anyways, advanced intelligence. I don't know what it stands for. I'm not a scientist. Anyways, Don has this fantastic program out where we can interact with his anthology the same way you would interact with ChatGPT or Grok or any of those programs. And I'm excited to have them on. So it might be next week. Keep a lookout for it. If it's not next week, we will get it done in April. But please stay tuned for that. Also, don't forget to send suggestions on topics and speakers. We'd love to give you what you are looking for on this podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again, Peter, and I'll see all of you next time.
Thank you.